Prologue: The Fading Light of Passion, Where Dreams Go to Die. By Laurel, Rick's former colleague and AP Gov teacher. In the golden haze of an autumn afternoon, the halls of our high school, Go Panthers, would often echo with the vibrant discussions emanating from Room 204, where Rick taught. His passion for literature and unwavering belief in the transformative power of education were palpable, inspiring not just his students, but also his colleagues. I was fortunate enough to be one of those colleagues, witnessing firsthand the dedication and enthusiasm Rick brought to his profession. However, the narrative that unfolds in the subsequent pages is a testament not to the triumphs of this passion, but to its gradual erosion, a poignant reminder of the cost of systemic failings in our educational landscape. Rick's journey from a fervent educator to a disenchanted professional is a narrative that, sadly, is becoming all too common. It is a story of how institutional pressures, societal shifts, and the undervaluation of teaching can extinguish the brightest of flames. These brief chapters ahead are steeped in the harsh red-pilled truth bombs of our pitiful profession, illustrating the myriad challenges that slowly chipped away at Rick's resolve. I remember a time when Rick would stay late, not just grading papers, but also crafting lesson plans that he hoped would ignite a love of learning in his students. He believed in the power of education to change lives, and his commitment was evident in everything he did. Yet, as the years passed, the weight of external pressures began to take its toll. The constant battle with administrative mandates, the struggle to maintain high academic standards in the face of growing indifference, and the erosion of professional respect and autonomy left him questioning the impact he was truly making, all while raising a family and his Labrador Champ. The transition from the classroom to a work-from-home job with an edtech company, one you've probably heard of, was a stark shift for Rick. It was a decision born not out of a desire for an easier path, but from a profound sense of disillusionment with the system that once held his highest ideals. In his new role, Rick found the financial stability and respect that had eluded him in teaching, but at the cost of the personal fulfillment he once derived from his work. He now earns double what he did as a teacher, with significantly less stress, yet I know part of him mourns the loss of his classroom days. Rick's story is a cautionary tale that echoes a dire warning. If the current trajectory continues, we risk losing not just the Ricks of the world, but an entire generation of passionate educators. The consequences of such a loss are immeasurable, not just in terms of the quality of education, but in the very fabric of our society. Teachers are the architects of the future, shaping the minds that will one day lead, innovate, and inspire. Yet if we continue to undervalue this noble profession, we not only diminish the individual spirits of teachers like Rick, but also the potential of countless students whose lives could have been profoundly impacted by them. As you embark on this journey through the pages that follow, I invite you to reflect on the true cost of the challenges detailed herein. It is my hope that Rick's story serves as a catalyst for change, urging all stakeholders in education to reevaluate our priorities and work towards a system that nurtures and sustains the passion of those who choose to teach. Only then can we hope to retain the best among us, ensuring that the light of educational passion, once ignited, continues to burn brightly in classrooms across the nation. May God have mercy on our souls, Laurel. Introduction: Echoes from an Empty Classroom. In the quiet moments before the day begins, the classroom stands as a testament to the hopes and dreams of countless students and teachers who have passed through its doors. It is in this space that knowledge is shared, minds are shaped, and futures are forged. But beneath the surface of this noble endeavor lies a complex, often turbulent world that many outside the educational sphere rarely see or fully understand. This book, born from over 2 decades of first-hand experience in the trenches of high school education, is an attempt to peel back the layers of the teaching profession, revealing the stark realities that challenge the ideals we hold about education. Through the lens of a teacher named Rick, we explore the myriad obstacles, frustrations, and paradoxes that teachers navigate daily. Rick's journey is like countless real educators' experiences, distilled into a narrative that seeks to shed light on the overlooked aspects of teaching. From the pervasive influence of technology and the cultural shift toward insane woke ideas To the undervaluation of academic rigor and the often misguided priorities of educational institutions, Rick's story is a candid examination of the profession's current state. The chapters that follow delve into specific facets of Rick's teaching career, each highlighting a particular challenge or phenomenon. From the impact of cell phones in the classroom to the contentious dynamics with parents and administrators, the narrative navigates the precarious balance between maintaining high standards and the push towards educational conformity. But more than just a critique, this book is a reflection on the changing landscape of education and a call to action for those within and outside the educational system. It challenges us to reconsider our perceptions of teaching, to recognize the dedication and resilience of educators, and to engage in a constructive dialogue about the future of education. As we journey through Rick's experiences, it is my hope that readers will gain a deeper appreciation for the complexities of teaching and the critical role educators play in shaping our society. For in understanding these challenges, we can begin to address them, working together to build an educational environment that truly values and supports the noble pursuit of knowledge. Welcome to Echoes from an Empty Classroom, a journey into the heart of teaching, where the lessons learned extend far beyond the walls of any classroom. Let's let Rick educate us. Chapter 1: The Digital Divide, Cell Phones in the Classroom. How have cell phones affected your life as a teacher? How was it before? I remember a time when teaching felt like an opportunity to genuinely connect, to light the spark of curiosity in young minds and guide them through the discoveries of history, science, literature, and mathematics. But as I reflect on my career, a significant part of my disenchantment with teaching stems from the pervasive influence of cell phones in the classroom. It's not just about the distraction they pose, but how they've fundamentally altered the teacher-student dynamic, respect for privacy, and the very essence of learning. Take, for instance, an experience that haunts me to this day, involving a student I'll call Alex and myself. During a particularly challenging lesson, I caught Alex blatantly disregarding the no-phone policy. When I approached to address the matter, Alex surreptitiously filmed our exchange, manipulating the situation to appear as though I was the aggressor. Despite my attempts to explain the context, the video spread like wildfire, vilified by a narrative spun out of control. And when the issue reached the administration, Alex's influential and douchey beta parent ensured the incident was swept under the rug, leaving me to grapple with public judgment and a shattered sense of security in my own classroom. This invasion of privacy starkly illustrates the new reality for teachers. We're constantly being watched, judged, and often misrepresented. We are expected to be perfect at all times. Before the digital invasion, distraction certainly existed, but nothing compares to the constant battle for attention we face today. And if you're caught telling a joke or being silly, viewers assume that's all you do, as bizarre as that sounds. I guess for some, only things they see exist. Cell phones have not only diverted focus, but fostered an environment where students are more interested in consuming fleeting content than engaging in productive learning. The immediate gratification provided by smartphones has eroded their patience and willingness to delve deeper into subjects, making teaching a subject in depth increasingly challenging. The dynamic in the classroom now feels akin to a prisoner-guard relationship, where much of the interaction revolves around surveillance and discipline rather than mentorship and discovery. This shift has not only affected the learning atmosphere, but has also made building meaningful relationships with students more difficult. Without these relationships, teaching becomes a job rather than a vocation, draining the joy and satisfaction from the profession. Implementing cell phone rules feels like a Sisyphean task. Regardless of the policies set in place, students devise inventive ways to circumvent them, creating a cycle of deceit that undermines trust and respect. And parents often get annoyed with schools for having common-sense policies. Because emergencies. While technology could, in theory, offer new avenues for learning and connection, the reality is that in its current, unchecked form, it often does more harm than good. Parents even know that cell phones aren't allowed but are for some reason texting all day. It's weird and unhealthy in my opinion. The question of when to allow cell phones is complex. Ideally, they would be used as tools for research or interactive learning, but the reality is far from this ideal. Instead, they serve as a constant source of distraction, a conduit for cyberbullying, and a barrier to genuine interaction and engagement with the material. Reflecting on these experiences, it's clear that cell phones have not only made teaching less enjoyable, but have also diminished the profession's respect and efficacy. The classroom, once a sanctuary of learning and personal growth, has become a battleground for attention, respect, and privacy. This digital divide has not only impacted teachers' professional lives, but has seeped into our personal lives, leaving us questioning our impact and place in the educational system. As we move forward, it's crucial to reconsider the role of cell phones in education and find a balance that respects both the potential of technology and the timeless value of human connection and learning. Until then, the cost of this digital invasion is too high for educators who entered the profession to make a difference, only to find themselves navigating an unrecognizable landscape, far removed from the ideals that once drew them to teaching. Chapter 2. Undermined Authority. When parents talk down to teachers. How have your interactions with parents changed over your career? Can you share any particularly memorable experiences? The teacher's role is not only challenged by the distractions of technology and the shifting dynamics within the classroom, but also, increasingly, by the attitudes and actions of parents. My experiences with parent-teacher interactions have ranged widely, but a disturbing trend has emerged. Being talked down to by parents who, for various reasons, see teachers as adversaries rather than allies in their children's education. One of the most disheartening encounters occurred during a parent-teacher conference, meant to be a collaborative discussion about a student's progress and well-being. The parent, a well-regarded therapist in the community, immediately set a tone of condescension that took me aback. As I began to express concerns about their child's engagement and performance, the parent interrupted, saying, "Let's remember, you're just the teacher." The implication was clear. My professional observations and concerns were deemed less valuable than their parental perspective. This sentiment not only undermined my authority, but also diminished the importance of my dedication and commitment to every student's success. The meeting concluded with little resolved, leaving me to question the value of my efforts if they were so easily dismissed by those whose children I worked so tirelessly to support. Another incident that starkly illustrates the challenges teachers face involved a case of clear academic dishonesty. A student had submitted homework that was an exact replica of another student's work. The evidence was irrefutable, and I expected the matter to be straightforward. But of course, when I addressed the issue with the student's father, a pastor known for his community leadership, the conversation took an unexpected turn. Despite the clear evidence, the father sided with his son, refusing to acknowledge the wrongdoing. He suggested that I was mistaken, or worse, that I had some vendetta against his child. At that point, I considered changing religions. Just kidding. Kind of. The father's unwavering support for his son in the face of clear ethical breaches not only undermined the academic standards, but also eroded the moral foundation I had hoped to instill in my students. This one shook me pretty badly. This experience was a stark reminder of how the integrity of the educational process can be compromised, not from within, but from the very community it serves. These encounters are not merely isolated incidents, but rather symptomatic of a broader shift in the relationship between educators and parents. Where once there was mutual respect and a shared goal of fostering the development of young minds, there now exists a tension, a sense of competition, and, at times, outright hostility. Teachers find themselves having to defend their professional judgments and actions, not in the face of evidence to the contrary, but against a growing societal undervaluation of their role. The cumulative effect of these interactions is profound. They not only challenge teachers' authority and professional integrity, but also contribute to a sense of disillusionment. The belief in education as a collaborative effort between teachers, students, and parents, a triangle of support for the student's growth and learning, becomes harder to sustain. As educators, we enter the profession with a vision of making a difference, of igniting curiosity, and inspiring a lifelong love of learning. Yet, When faced with such challenges, maintaining this vision requires resilience, patience, and an unwavering commitment to our students, often in the face of misunderstanding and disrespect from those we aim to partner with in this educational journey. In reflecting on these experiences, it's clear that the changing dynamics with parents represent yet another layer of complexity in the teaching profession. It underscores the need for open, respectful dialogue and a reevaluation of the value placed on education and those who dedicate their lives to it. Chapter 3: The Myth of the Eternal Vacation. Summers off, summers on. People often envy teachers for having summers off. Can you share your perspective on this common misconception? For many outside the education field, the life of a teacher is often viewed through a rose-tinted lens, particularly when it comes to the topic of summer vacations. The notion that teachers enjoy a carefree, 3-month hiatus each year is a myth that persists, despite the reality being far from this idyllic image. My name is Rick, and after dedicating over 2 decades to teaching, I can unequivocally say that my summers have never been off. Instead, they've been filled with alternative work to make ends meet, continuous professional development, and preparation for the coming academic year. The first summer after I started teaching, the stark realization that my teacher's salary was insufficient to cover the year's expenses led me to seek summer employment. I found myself swapping lesson plans for paintbrushes, becoming a painter. The physical toll was immense, but the financial necessity overshadowed the exhaustion. Each subsequent summer, my endeavors to supplement my income varied from working at a local liquor store to providing lawn care services in the scorching heat. The dream of leisurely summers was quickly replaced by the reality of long hours and relentless manual labor. Interactions with friends from college who ventured into more lucrative fields often served as stark reminders of the financial sacrifices inherent in the teaching profession. During a casual reunion, a friend unaware of my summer jobs commented, "Those summers off must be awesome. I envy you." The irony of the statement was palpable. As I shared the reality of my summers off, detailing the jobs I juggled to make ends meet, the conversation shifted uncomfortably. Another friend chimed in, "Well, you chose this field," a remark intended to end the discussion, but instead highlighted the dismissive attitude toward the financial struggles teachers face. This sentiment, that the choice of teaching as a profession justifies the lack of financial recognition and respect, is a common refrain. Yet it dismisses the critical role teachers play in shaping future generations. The choice to teach is not a waiver of the right to a fair and livable wage, nor does it negate the desire for societal respect and understanding of the profession's challenges. The misconception of the leisurely summer off is not only a misunderstanding of how teachers spend their summers, but also a reflection of the broader undervaluation of the profession. It overlooks the hours of planning for the new school year, the time spent attending workshops and courses for professional development, and the financial and emotional strains of balancing multiple jobs. The disparities in perception and reality are emblematic of the wider issues facing education. While friends in other industries enjoy genuine vacations, advancement opportunities, and financial security, teachers navigate a landscape marked by sacrifices, misconceptions, and a constant fight for recognition and respect. The myth of the teacher's summer vacation encapsulates the broader struggles of the profession, struggles that are often invisible to those outside it. As we consider the future of education, it's imperative to challenge these misconceptions and advocate for systemic changes that recognize and reward the dedication of teachers. The profession demands not only a passion for teaching, but also a resilience to withstand the financial and societal challenges it entails. It's time to replace the myth of the leisurely summer with a reality that respects and supports teachers' year-round dedication to their students and their profession. Chapter 4: The Blame Game. Bizarre behaviors and administrative excuses. How do you handle bizarre student behaviors and the administrative responses to these incidents? Navigating the landscape of modern education requires not just a mastery of subject matter and teaching methodologies, but also an almost Herculean patience and diplomacy. particularly when dealing with challenging student behaviors and the often baffling administrative reactions to them. Throughout my career, I've encountered a wide range of student behaviors, but it's the response from those in administrative positions that sometimes leaves me perplexed and disheartened. This disparity was never more evident than in the case of a student named Jackson. Jackson was known for his disruptive behavior, but one incident stands out as emblematic of the broader issues within the school's disciplinary system. During a particularly challenging lesson, in an attempt to redirect Jackson's attention away from his phone and back to the task at hand, I was met with a blatant and shocking retort: "Fuck off." The classroom fell silent. It was a pivotal moment, one that demanded a response which would uphold the standards of respect and discipline within the classroom. Following protocol, I reported the incident, expecting a firm but fair response from the administration. However, the outcome was far from what I anticipated. The administration's reaction was to downplay the incident, attributing Jackson's behavior to his disability and suggesting that I should be more understanding and accommodating. Seriously, while I am fully committed to supporting all students, including those with disabilities, this stance raised significant concerns about the message being sent regarding respect, responsibility, and accountability. This incident with Jackson is not an isolated one, nor is it limited to students with disabilities. It reflects a broader trend where bizarre and rude behaviors are often excused by administrators, who cite a range of justifications from personal issues to learning challenges. While empathy and understanding are crucial in education, there comes a point where making excuses for disrespectful behavior does a disservice not only to the teachers and students who are directly affected, but also to the students being excused. It robs them of the opportunity to learn from their mistakes, to develop resilience, and to understand the importance of respect and personal accountability. The consequences of this approach are manifold. Firstly, it undermines the authority of teachers, eroding their ability to manage their classrooms effectively. Secondly, it sends a confusing message to other students about the boundaries of acceptable behavior. And finally, it places teachers in an untenable position, where they must navigate not only the challenges of educating, but also the complexities of a disciplinary system that seems at times to work against them. My experience with Jackson and the administrative response to his behavior is a stark reminder of the need for a balanced approach to discipline, one that recognizes the importance of supporting students with challenges while also upholding the principles of respect and accountability. It underscores the necessity for administrators and teachers to work collaboratively, with a shared understanding and approach to discipline that respects the dignity of the teaching profession and the developmental needs of the students. Chapter 5. The Untouchables: Athletics over Academics. In your experience, how has the emphasis on sports over academics affected the school environment? Throughout my teaching career, I've observed a disconcerting trend that seems to pervade the very fabric of the high school culture: the glorification of athletics at the expense of academic achievement. This skewed prioritization has not only warped students' and parents' perceptions of success, but has also created a class of untouchables within the student body. Athletes who, because of their prowess on the field or court, seem to operate under a different set of rules. A vivid illustration of this issue was the treatment of a student athlete. Let's call him Derek. Derek was a star on the football team, a fact that seemed to grant him a free pass for behavior and academic performance that would have had serious consequences for any other student. Instances of missed assignments, disruptive behavior in class, and even disrespect towards teachers were routinely overlooked or minimized, under the guise of preserving his eligibility for games. The message this sends is clear: success in sports trumps educational achievement and personal responsibility. It's a culture where athletes are treated like gods, immune to the rules that apply to their peers. This dynamic creates a rift among the student body and fosters resentment. It also undermines the efforts of students who excel academically, relegating their achievements to the background in the shadow of athletic triumphs. Now, one of the most blatant examples of this preferential treatment occurred during finals week. Derek, having missed numerous classes and assignments throughout the semester, was on the verge of failing my class, which would have made him ineligible for the upcoming championship game. The pressure from the administration to find a way to pass Derek was immense, illustrating the unfortunate reality that maintaining a winning sports team had become more important than upholding academic integrity. The consequences of this imbalance are far-reaching. It devalues education, teaching students that athletic ability is a ticket to preferential treatment. It erodes the morale of teachers, who are forced to compromise their standards. And perhaps most tragically, it does a disservice to the student-athletes themselves, many of whom graduate without the skills or knowledge necessary for success outside the realm of sports. The adulation of athletics over academics is not just a problem at individual schools, but a reflection of societal values that prioritize entertainment and instant gratification over hard work and intellectual achievement. This cultural imbalance contributes to a cycle that's difficult to break, where sports achievements are celebrated publicly while academic successes remain unrecognized. As a jaded former teacher, I've seen firsthand how this dynamic can distort the educational landscape, creating an environment where true learning and intellectual curiosity are undervalued. The untouchable status afforded to athletes can lead to a sense of entitlement and a lack of accountability that, in the long run, serves no one, not the students, the school, or the broader community. Reflecting on these experiences, it's clear that a shift in priorities is needed. A reevaluation of what we, as a society, value and celebrate within our educational institutions is overdue. Only then can we hope to foster an environment where academic achievements are as revered as athletic ones, and where all students are held to the same standard of excellence and accountability. Chapter 6: The Digital Classroom, a Refuge from the Chaos. If you were to return to teaching, would you consider a virtual classroom? Why or why not? After years in the traditional classroom, battling distractions and disrespect, the allure of a virtual teaching environment has grown increasingly appealing. In fact, my region has a few options to choose from, and once in a while they are hiring in my field. This sentiment was further reinforced by the experiences of a colleague and friend, Lance, who made the transition to virtual teaching. Lance's journey from the stress-filled halls of a brick-and-mortar school to the relative calm of the digital classroom has been nothing short of revelatory, offering a glimpse into a potentially less stressful, more focused teaching experience. Lance, like me, was no stranger to the challenges of modern teaching. The constant struggle with cell phones, the battles over attention, and the exhausting demands of appeasing both administration and parents had taken their toll. However, his decision to shift to virtual teaching marked a significant turning point in his professional life. Despite a slight decrease in salary, the quality of his work life improved exponentially, underscoring an often overlooked aspect of the teaching profession: the impact of environmental stressors on teachers' well-being. In the virtual classroom, Lance found an environment free from the physical intrusions and distractions that had marred his teaching experience. Cell phones, once the bane of his existence, were no longer a disruptive force. Without the need to police students' use of technology, Lance could focus on what he loved most: teaching. The digital platform provided a level of engagement and interaction that surprised him. Students participated in discussions, submitted their work on time, and perhaps most importantly, showed a level of respect and attentiveness that had become increasingly rare in the physical classroom. And if they didn't, he could mute them. Wouldn't that be amazing if we always had that ability? This isn't to say that virtual teaching is without its challenges. Technical issues, ensuring student engagement, and the absence of physical presence require adjustments and a new set of strategies. Yet the benefits, as Lance discovered, can be profound. The reduction in stress was not merely about the absence of classroom disruptions. It was about the ability to craft a more controlled, focused teaching environment. It allowed Lance to rediscover his passion for teaching, free from the extraneous pressures that had once threatened to overshadow it. Moreover, virtual teaching introduced Lance to a more flexible lifestyle. The elimination of a daily commute and the ability to work from home provided a balance between work and personal life that had previously seemed unattainable. This flexibility, coupled with the reduction in day-to-day stressors, contributed to an overall improvement in his quality of life, underscoring the potential of virtual teaching as a viable alternative for educators seeking refuge from the chaos of traditional settings. Reflecting on Lance's experience, I can't help but feel a pull toward the virtual classroom. The prospect of focusing solely on the subject matter, free from the physical and behavioral challenges that have become all too common, is undeniably attractive. While the personal interaction and the dynamic energy of a physical classroom have their merits, the virtual environment offers a semblance of peace and a return to the core of teaching, imparting knowledge and fostering a love of learning. As I contemplate the possibility of returning to teaching, the virtual classroom stands out as a beacon of hope, a chance to reconnect with the joys of teaching in a setting that prioritizes education over distraction. Lance's journey from stressed and disillusioned to reinvigorated and passionate is a powerful testament to the potential of virtual teaching. It offers not just a different way to teach, but a way to rediscover the essence of what it means to be a teacher. Consider being like Lance. Chapter 8: The Challenge of Critical Thinking in an Era of Compliance. What are the impacts of the current cultural climate on critical thinking and open discussion in the classroom? The contemporary educational landscape, woke bullshit, particularly in high schools, has become increasingly fraught with challenges to fostering an environment conducive to critical thinking and open discussion. Students are so emotional, it's astounding. This shift has been significantly influenced by a cultural climate that emphasizes compliance with a narrow set of viewpoints, often at the expense of intellectual diversity and the encouragement of independent thought. One incident that encapsulates these challenges involved a student, Fawn, who dared to express a perspective that diverged from the dominant narrative during a classroom discussion. Her comment, rather than sparking a healthy debate or further inquiry, was immediately labeled as a microaggression, leading to a formal meeting with administrators. This situation was not just troubling in its immediate repercussions for Fawn, but also emblematic of a broader issue: the increasing difficulty in navigating discussions on any topics that might be deemed sensitive or controversial. The climate of conformity that has permeated high schools discourages students from exploring a wide range of ideas and developing their own viewpoints. Instead, there is a noticeable trend towards echoing prevailing opinions, many of which are adopted from social media or certain news outlets, without a critical examination of their underlying assumptions or possible biases. And don't get me started on the ridiculous snapping fingers after a trite platitude is uttered. This tendency undermines the very purpose of education, which is to foster critical thinking, encourage questioning, and prepare students to engage with the world in an informed and nuanced manner. Moreover, the atmosphere of caution around potentially triggering topics has led to a self-censorship among students and teachers alike. There's a palpable fear that stepping outside the bounds of accepted discourse will result in social ostracism or administrative censure. This fear stifles the kind of rigorous debate and discussion necessary for intellectual growth and the development of critical thinking skills. The incident with Fawn and the administrative response to it is a clear indication of how the focus has shifted from educating students to policing their language and thoughts. The message this sends is clear. Conformity is valued over curiosity, and adherence to a specific set of values is mandated, regardless of individual belief or intellectual exploration. This environment is not only detrimental to the development of critical thinking, but also to the fundamental principles of academic freedom and the pursuit of knowledge. The prioritization of a particular brand of cultural and political compliance over the open exchange of ideas has significant implications for the future of education. It risks producing a generation of students who are adept at repeating the right phrases but lack the ability to think deeply or critically about the issues facing their world. The absence of diverse viewpoints and the unwillingness to engage with challenging or uncomfortable ideas impoverishes the educational experience, leaving students ill-prepared for the complexities of real-world decision-making. In this climate, the role of the educator becomes exceedingly difficult. The challenge is not only to impart knowledge, but to do so in a way that navigates the minefield of cultural sensitivities without sacrificing the essence of education, the development of a questioning, independent, and critically engaged mind. As the landscape of high school education continues to evolve, the need for recommitment to these foundational values becomes ever more pressing. Chapter 9. Walking on Eggshells. The New Terrain of Collegial Interaction. How has the culture among teachers changed in your experience, especially with newer teachers entering the profession? Gone are the days when the teacher's lounge was a haven of camaraderie, laughter, and shared experiences of triumphs and challenges in the classroom. It used to be a place where you could find solace among peers, exchange jokes, and provide support for each other. However, the dynamics within these sacred walls have shifted dramatically, mirroring the broader cultural changes sweeping through educational institutions. As a veteran teacher, I've observed a palpable transformation in the atmosphere, particularly with the influx of new teachers into the profession, a change that has made the act of simple conversation fraught with caution. The emergence of a new generation of teachers has brought with it a heightened sensitivity to language and behavior that, while well-intentioned in its aim to foster a more inclusive, stale, and respectful, boring workplace, has inadvertently created an environment where many feel the need to tread lightly. The informal banter and lighthearted jokes that once served as the glue bonding staff members together are now potential minefields, with the risk of offense looming large over every interaction. This shift has been particularly challenging for someone like me, who valued the teacher's lounge as a space to unwind and connect with colleagues on a personal level. I used to look forward to these moments, where the shared experience of teaching forged strong bonds and a sense of belonging. Yet the current climate has instilled a sense of apprehension, making it difficult to engage openly without the fear of unintentionally offending someone. One vivid illustration of this new reality occurred during a casual conversation about weekend plans, where I mentioned a historical novel I was reading, Unbroken, about World War II. My attempt to share something I found fascinating quickly turned into a tense discussion about the representation of various groups in literature, leaving me feeling as though I had inadvertently stepped into a minefield. I was annoyed and ate my yogurt alone in my classroom. The interaction was a stark reminder of how the landscape of social interaction among teachers has changed, where topics that were once considered benign are now potential triggers for controversy. These new teachers are a nightmare, and they never smile or experience joy. They look around like they're always looking for something to be offended about. They always make issues for administration, too, and I'm surprised they haven't learned their lesson. I can pick out one of these walking turds from a mile away. The impact of this change extends beyond the personal discomfort of navigating these new social norms. It has profound implications for the sense of community among teachers. The natural flow of conversation and the spontaneous exchange of ideas that once characterized interactions among colleagues have given way to a more guarded and measured form of communication. This shift not only diminishes the richness of our interactions, but also impacts the collaborative spirit essential for a thriving educational environment. And the reluctance to engage openly with one another, for fear of causing offense, has made it increasingly challenging to form the kind of close-knit bonds that used to provide a vital support network for teachers. The solidarity that comes from knowing you can share your thoughts and experiences openly, without judgment, is being eroded, replaced by a cautious distance that limits the depth of our connections. As we navigate this new terrain of collegial interaction, the challenge lies in finding a balance. How do we maintain a respectful and inclusive environment while preserving the spontaneity and openness that enrich our professional relationships? The answer is not straightforward, and the journey towards it is fraught with complexity. However, it's imperative that we strive to foster a culture where diverse viewpoints and experiences can be shared without fear, and where the bonds of community are strengthened, not weakened, by our differences. This balance is crucial, not only for the well-being of teachers, but also for the creation of a dynamic and supportive educational ecosystem that benefits everyone within it. Until then, stay out of the teacher's lounge and pretend like you hate all the right people. Elon Musk. Chapter 10. The Penalty of High Standards. Can you describe a time when your commitment to high academic standards resulted in conflict or pushback? Throughout my tenure as a high school English teacher, I was deeply committed to maintaining high academic standards, believing fervently in the potential of each student to achieve excellence. However, this commitment often placed me at the center of conflict, particularly with parents who were unprepared to accept that their child's best effort might not always equate to top grades. This stark reality hit home one year when I was teaching English 9, a period that tested not just my resolve as an educator, but also my principles. It was a year when the distinction between the consequences of high versus low expectations became painfully clear. While I spent every weekend meticulously grading papers, providing detailed feedback aimed at fostering my students' growth, some of my colleagues chose a path of lesser resistance. Their leniency in grading and expectations stood in stark contrast to my rigorous standards. As the semester progressed, the repercussions of our differing approaches became increasingly evident. One incident that vividly encapsulates this tension involved a project on Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. I had tasked my students with a comprehensive analysis, expecting not just a regurgitation of plot points, but a deep, insightful exploration of themes, character development, and language. The assignment was challenging, designed to push students out of their comfort zones and encourage critical thinking. As the projects came in and were subsequently graded, the disparities in effort and understanding were significant. My feedback was honest and constructive, but the grades reflected the quality of work submitted. This did not sit well with several parents, who viewed these grades not as an assessment of their child's work, but as a personal indictment. Complaints began to flood in, with one particularly memorable meeting serving as a microcosm of the larger issue. During this meeting, a parent accused me of unfairly penalizing their child for what they perceived as minor oversights. They argued that their child had worked hard and that effort should be the primary criterion for grading. The implication was clear. My standards were too high, and by holding firm to them, I was somehow at fault for the students' dissatisfaction and stress. The parent contrasted my grading approach with that of another teacher who was known for their leniency, suggesting that I should adopt a similar stance. This experience was a poignant reminder of the challenges faced by teachers who strive to maintain high academic standards. The pressure to conform to a culture of mediocrity, to avoid conflict and complaints, can be overwhelming. Yet, capitulating to these pressures does a disservice to our students, preparing them for a world that neither demands nor rewards excellence. The distinction between the reactions to high versus low expectations was stark. Teachers who demanded less faced fewer complaints and enjoyed a semblance of peace. But at what cost? The realization that I was being penalized for my commitment to excellence was disheartening, highlighting a troubling trend in education toward valuing perceived happiness and conflict avoidance over genuine learning and growth. In reflecting on this and similar incidents, it became apparent that the path of high expectations is fraught with challenges. However, it is a path worth pursuing. True education is not about taking the easy way out or inflating grades to avoid confrontation. It's about challenging our students, and indeed ourselves, to reach higher, to embrace the discomfort of growth, and to strive for a standard of excellence that transcends the classroom. This commitment to high standards, while often thankless, is the cornerstone of meaningful education, shaping not just academic outcomes, but the very character of our students. Conclusion: rekindling the flame. As we close the pages on Rick's journey through the trials and tribulations of the teaching profession, it's crucial to step back and absorb the broader implications of his story. Rick's narrative, a composite of countless real-world educators' experiences, serves as a poignant reminder of the challenges facing teachers today. It's a reflection not only on the individual struggles, but also on the systemic issues that threaten the very foundation of our educational system. The journey from a passionate, dedicated teacher to a disillusioned professional contemplating a career outside the classroom is not just Rick's story. It's the story of many educators who enter the profession with high hopes and noble intentions, only to find themselves ground down by a system that often seems to work against them. The challenges of navigating a changing cultural landscape, dealing with bureaucratic constraints, and constantly fighting for respect and recognition can dim the brightest of flames. But Rick's transition to a new role outside the traditional classroom, where he finds greater financial stability and less stress, is not the end of the story. It's a call to action. It's a reminder that we must do better for our teachers and, by extension, our students. The loss of even one passionate educator like Rick is a loss for the entire educational community, and ultimately for society at large. We can't afford more dedicated men and women to say "fuck it" and walk away from the disrespect. The issues highlighted throughout this book, ranging from the impact of technology in the classroom to the pressures of maintaining high academic standards, from the challenges of navigating wokeness in education to the struggle for professional respect, point to a need for systemic change. These challenges are not insurmountable, but addressing them requires a concerted effort from all stakeholders, including educators, administrators, parents, and policymakers. As we look to the future, there are glimmers of hope. The very act of recognizing and articulating the challenges faced by teachers like Rick is the first step towards addressing them. Initiatives aimed at improving teacher support, professional autonomy, and respect within the community are gaining traction. There's a growing recognition of the need for a balanced approach to technology in the classroom, one that harnesses its potential without allowing it to dominate the educational landscape. And perhaps most importantly, there's an emerging dialogue about the value of education and the role of teachers in shaping the future. Echoes from an Empty Classroom is not just a reflection on the challenges of teaching. It's an invitation to rekindle the flame of passion for education. It's a call to celebrate and support the individuals who dedicate their lives to teaching, to recognize the complexity of their role, and to work towards an educational system that nurtures and values their contribution. Then, let us take up this challenge with the same passion and commitment that Rick and countless educators like him bring to their classrooms every day. In doing so, we not only honor their dedication, but also secure the future of education for generations to come. Until then, do not become a high school teacher.